DkIT and to Claire for organising this and for everybody for logging in this lunchtime. As Claire said, I'm here to represent the Teaching Council of the Republic of Ireland, and we are the regulatory body for teachers in Ireland. So we were set up, just to give you a brief overview, in the year 2006. And so we're celebrating 20 years of regulation this year, and our main role is to protect the public and to regulate professional standards in teaching. So we do that by registering teachers. That's a statutory process, and effectively, if you want to earn a living as a teacher in Ireland, you must maintain registered status with the Teaching Council. And we also ensure that the teachers that are there are highly qualified and that they uphold high standards of professional competence and conduct. We do that in a number of different ways, and one of the main ways that would affect any would-be student teachers on this call is that we are the accrediting body for the programs of what we call initial teacher education in Ireland. So if you wish to become a teacher in the Republic of Ireland, you need to be registered with the Teaching Council, and you also need to have a specific teacher education qualification, which the Teaching Council accredits. And all of the providers that are on the call today are accredited providers of initial teacher education in Ireland, and that's really important, and I'll come back to that point in a few moments. So we register 3 different types of teachers, really. Primary school teachers, post-primary, which most of you would call secondary, and also teachers of further education. And I'm going to focus on the first 2 today. We also have student teachers and other limited teachers, but I'll focus on those first 2 routes. And the statutory regulations are linked there for you, or hyperlinked in that image there, and I'll make this presentation available to Claire to disseminate to you afterwards, and you can click on all the links. So, like I said, you need to be registered with us and you need to have the proper qualification. And we have created these leaflets. They're online. You can also get a hard copy. Claire, I think, has some there in the office. And they detail the 3 different routes: how to become a primary school teacher, post-primary, or how to become a further ed teacher. And briefly, I'll bring you through that process now orally as well. So the most important thing from my point of view is that you do a programme of initial teacher education which is accredited by the Teaching Council. So on our website, which is www.teachingcouncil.ie, we have a page called the Accredited Programmes page, and you can see there that you can filter all of the courses in Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland, that are accredited by us, that will lead to your registration with the Teaching Council. And that's just an example there. I did a little search. You can see there in the top left-hand corner, I have a few filters there. I filtered for post-primary, I filtered for postgraduate, and I filtered for ag science. So if I want to be a secondary school teacher of ag science and I want to do the PME, where can I do that in Ireland? And the information is there for you on the screen. And if you see there, there's a little link beside each of the names: Professional Master of Education, and the link there will take you directly to the course provider, their page, and you can investigate then that accredited programme. So you can rest assured, if you use that site, that you're looking at programmes which will lead to accreditation as a teacher in Ireland, which is really important. So very briefly, to bring you through, if you want to become a primary school teacher, you have 2 options. You either do an undergraduate programme, which is usually 4 years, and it's called a Bachelor of Education, or you do a 2-year Professional Master of Education. And those are your 2 routes to becoming a primary school teacher in Ireland. And if you choose one of those 2 routes, then eventually it will lead to registration with the Teaching Council. Just a brief mention that if you want to become a primary school teacher, most of you will already know that there are minimum entry requirements to become a primary school teacher in Ireland. And they're set down by the Government of Ireland, and they're hyperlinked there for you on that image. They're set down in that document there, and they're guidelines from the Department of Education and Youth. And most of you will be aware, for example, of the Irish requirement, which says that you must have a H4 in Irish, that's 60% in old money, at higher level in Irish in the Leaving Cert. But that document also shows different alternative ways for you to get that qualification. If you don't have a H4 in the Leaving Cert Irish, how can you get it? And some examples are teg.ie, but that's a very good document to investigate if you're interested in becoming a primary school teacher. If you're interested in becoming a post-primary school teacher, again, you have two options. You could do a 4-year Bachelor of Education in post-primary school teaching, or you could do a 2-year Professional Master of Education in post-primary school teaching. And again, both of those routes, both of those options will lead to registration with the Teaching Council. There are no set down minimum requirements for entry to the post-primary teacher education programs. But if you're going to teach at post-primary school, you need to teach a subject. It's different from primary school where you would be teaching all the subjects. So if you're doing a PME, so if you're going for option 2, which many of you might be looking at, you need to satisfy the requirements for at least one curricular subject. And those are all, again, that's hyperlinked for you there in this document on the screen, which I'll share with Claire. And they're all different, but this document goes through each of the subjects that you could teach at post-primary school level, and it tells you what modules you need to have studied, and it lays down those requirements for you. So it's very important that your undergraduate, your BA, your BSc, whatever it might be, can satisfy the requirements of at least one of those subjects, and then you can go on to do your PME, and that's for post-primary school only. Now, just a little screen grab for you here to give you an example of that. So say, for example, I want to be a secondary school business studies teacher, and I have done a BSc or a BA in business or business management or accounting or something like that. How do I know that I will be qualified to be accepted onto one of these PMEs? Well, this is just a screenshot of what the business requirements are. So, for example, you need to have there, you see business up to and including 3rd year. So if you've dropped business after 2nd year, that wouldn't satisfy this. It needs to be business at level 8, so not level 7. It needs to have 60 credits of business at least. And then there are extra requirements which say you need to have studied at least 5 of the following, and they give you some options there. And you'd have to go through your module descriptors for your course, maybe with the help of a friendly tutor or a lecturer that you get on with, or maybe a friendly person in the career service, hint, hint, and they might help you to go through to see, does your course line up with that? And they might help you with that. Now, if it was the case that you didn't match up, say you were doing a level 7 or you had dropped business at 2nd year, there's still a way in. You would be qualified, but with a shortfall, and you would be accepted onto the PME, but you would be told you have a shortfall and you have to upskill in those areas. And you'd be given a time period of, we'll say, 3 years to upskill there. So just because you can't satisfy those criteria now does not mean that you can't satisfy them ever. So don't panic, I suppose, is the key thing there. So that's a whistle-stop tour. And I thought, Claire, because of where you are located, that it might be important to speak to this slide. Can I qualify abroad? What if I want to go to the 6 counties and I want to do my qualification there? Sure, wouldn't that be handy? Well, yes. Fully qualified teachers, qualified outside of the Republic of Ireland, are eligible to apply for registration with the Teaching Council. But that does not mean that you will be immediately accepted onto the register in the Teaching Council. And usually you'd want to have your research done beforehand, because shortfalls would usually apply. And they, I couldn't speak to every single shortfall, but common shortfalls, if you did your qualification in the UK, for example, not the only shortfall, but common ones, would be the Irish language requirement. So look, if you're doing primary school teaching in the UK, they won't expect that you have good Irish. So that would be a common one, but it might not be the only one. And another one is, we wouldn't expect people in different jurisdictions to have studied about the history and structure of the Irish education system, but we certainly expect teachers within the Republic of Ireland to know something of the history and structure of our system. So you can qualify abroad, but it may be that when you come back, then shortfalls will be conditions will be attached to your registration, and you'll have to satisfy those. So it's a very good idea to do a lot of research before you sink money and time and energy and resources and commit to a course in another jurisdiction that the Teaching Council of Ireland does not have jurisdiction over. So just to point that out and just to be careful about that. And you'll be registered with the conditions. Now, just to finish up, I suppose, the government has a nice website. It's the gov.ie/teaching transforms. And again, that's hyperlinked for you there on that screen. And they have different information and guidance for people who might be interested in teaching. And it's a very good website. It has it's worth a good route around if you feel like you may be entitled to extra supports, financial or otherwise, and especially if you can identify as being one of the priority access groups. So in teaching in Ireland, traditionally, some groups are underrepresented as teachers. And some of those groups would include people from the travelling community, people from other ethnic minorities, people who spend time in foster care, people who may be the first generation of their family to go on to higher education. And I can't speak to all of those groups in such a short time, but all I'd say is that that is a very good website to investigate if there are particular financial supports or schemes available which might aid you in becoming a teacher, and they would be only available for priority access groups. And it's a good website which is worth having a route around on, like I said. So, Sinead, I'm bang on 1:15, and I'll stop
Excellent
there.
job. Thank you, Ashling. Thank you so much.
No bother.
Really, really helpful. Always lovely to hear directly from the Irish Teaching Council. And I think at this point, just to highlight to students, you covered off in terms of conditional requirements if students do go and study abroad in the UK or Northern Ireland. And we have an information session very similar to this one, students on Thursday lunchtime. So check that out if you may be interested in potentially studying in the UK. There are definitely routes back to becoming fully registered teacher in Ireland with those potential conditional requirements. Okay, so now we'll hand over swiftly to Tara at DCU. Tara's going to bring us through the PMEP, the primary programme within DCU. Hi, Tara.
Hi, how's it going? I'm just trying to,
Very well.
sorry, I'll just share this. So myself and Gareth are going to share this slot. I'll just do the primary piece first,
Yes,
and then he'll do the post. There we go. Okay,
lovely.
so hopefully you can all see the slides there, can you?
We can, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, great. So I'm Targan Cannon Gibney, and I am the chair of the PMEP here at DCU. And I'm just going to give you a little overview of the PMEP program and why you might like to consider doing it at DCU. So just first of all, an overview of the program. The program consists of taught modules in the curricular areas of the primary school curriculum. So all the curricular areas you'd be familiar with: English, Irish, maths, science, history, geography, art, drama, and so forth. And we also have foundational subjects such as psychology, sociology, philosophy, and so on. Professional modules that relate to aspects of teaching and working in schools. And then we have 24 weeks of school placement. and 4 weeks in total of Tréis Fála Meas Gaeltacht, which is divided into 2 slots of 2 weeks. So in terms of what that looks like across 2 years, because it's a 2-year full-time program, we do a lot of the course content in first year. As you can see, there's lots of different variety of modules happening in first year. And that's because I suppose we have a lot in first year because we kind of front load the content to prepare our students for placement. So you can see that in second year, there's a lot less modules, and that has to do with the fact that they spend a lot of second year out on placement. So on our program, there's also an optional Catholic pathway that's available to any student who wants to take that on. It will slot into your timetable, and it just means at the end of the 2 years, you'll also have a Catholic certificate for teaching in Catholic primary schools. So most of our students will avail of that option as well. So in terms of placement then, we have a lot of placements on the program, 24 weeks total, as I mentioned. And we start with the staggered placement in first year, which is where students go out for 2 days a week and then are back in on campus, just so they can have kind of a slow start that's very supportive in nature, that eventually leads up to a 2-week block. We also have an SEN placement in first year where students can go out to a special class in a school, or maybe an ASD unit, or any SEN setting. So sometimes we have students go out to hospital schools and various different settings, and we're very open to students. If they're keen to go into a particular SEN setting, we support that. Then in second year, you can see that we have 2 different placement blocks, and one is an extended placement of 10 weeks. So it's a supportive placement modules, should I say, where you have a tutor who works with you to support and to guide you. Start off with only 1 lesson a day, and then we kind of work towards teaching all day. Oops, sorry. So why might you consider coming to DCU to do your PMP? DCU is, I suppose, we have one of the largest education faculties in Europe. We have huge expertise amongst our staff, and people who are really expert in their field, and our students are really appreciative of that. But our PMP program is small in size, so we have small classes, so you get to experience that small class size, but within the full university experience. Our classes are very interactive, practical, hands-on. This is a photo from our recent, or just a couple of weeks ago, with our first year group, and you can see they're really engaging with materials here in the art studio, and we really kind of, I suppose, approach all of the learning in that kind of active, hands-on type of way. Our modules as well are mainly kind of workshop seminar style. We also have outdoor classes, and our assessments are very broad and wide ranging to allow our students to show their learning in lots of different ways. We also have a flexible timetable. We give online Mondays in the first semester, first year. They also have a half day on Fridays. And then in the second semester of PME1, the students are out on placement, and then they're on campus. All the placements are home-based, which means you can seek a school that is close to your home, so that if you are, maybe having to commute long distances to campus, when you're on placement for those 24 weeks across the 2 years, you will be, close to your own home, which our students really, really value. And then in second year, the students only spend 5 weeks of second year on campus because the rest is devoted to placement. A lot of students who are coming on the PMP do worry about the Gaeilge and their competence in the language, so we really try to support that. We have a DCU-funded Dean Courses of Gaeilge at the start of the programme, which is an option that students can avail of if they want to brush up on their Gaeilge, just kind of getting ready to come in on the programme. We also have lots of informal oral language sessions like Te Agus Play. We have Session Ceol. We even had a pop-up Gaeltacht there at the start of the week that students can avail of. So we really encourage our students to get involved in the campus life and anything that they can do to kind of help developing their Irish language competency. They will also have professional Irish classes for 3 hours a week across first year as well. But just in terms of logistics, it is a 2-year full-time program. And this is just the layout there of year 1 and year 2. So you can see how kind of the order of what you'll be doing in the different semesters. And also you'll see where the Gaeltacht is placed. In first year, it is at the end of May. And in second year, it is in Easter. So wherever Easter tends to fall in that particular calendar year. In terms of entry requirements, we already just mentioned the minimum grades in Irish, Maths and English. Also in a level 8 degree, you'd need the minimum of a 2.2 in your grade from a level 8 degree as your undergraduate. And another key requirement is the Teagasc Eorpach na Gaeilge, the TEG B1. So the TEG is an exam that all applicants to the PMEP must pass, and they must pass it within 2 years of applying. So when you sit the exam, if you pass it, the cert does last for 2 years, but the passing rate is 65%, and it is a challenging exam. And it does require quite a bit of preparation, and that TEG result is required in order to apply to our program. So it's a really key aspect of it. So if you're thinking about doing the PMEP, I want to be planning ahead, thinking about whether you have those minimum requirements in the Leaving Cert, or there are alternatives listed on the department website as well and on our own website. And you also might be planning ahead for that TEG certificate as well, to make sure that you have everything in order when you go to apply for our program. Just we might have a minute or two for questions, or maybe we can move on to Gareth and take questions together. I don't mind, whichever.
Yeah, we might hold questions. Thank you so much, Tara, for that really good insight. We might hold questions till the end, if that's okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, is that all right? Okay, we'll move over then to Gareth, if you can bring us through the post-primary, please.
Hi, guys. Just give me 1 second. Hopefully you're seeing slides there, guys.
Yeah, we can indeed.
Yeah, brilliant. So yeah, great to be here today, guys, and to follow on from Tara's presentation. So my name is Gareth Burns. I'm the program chair of the PME post-primary program at DCU, the 2-year program that leads obviously to professional accreditation as a post-primary teacher. So drawing on kind of some of the previous input from Tara, like why DCU and why DCU PME? Well, the DCU Institute of Education, Tara referred to, it's a centre of expertise and excellence in teacher education and research. I suppose more specifically around the PME programme at DCU, its delivery is very kind of attractive to students. It's flexible in the sense of predominantly being on campus, but there are online components. That's in terms of the lectures and tutorials and workshops and so on. The placement structure allows students to complete placements. It's a year-long placement, but allows students to complete placements close to their home and provide students with experience of being in a school for the whole school year. And I'll chat a little bit about kind of student feedback in relation to that and positivity around that. The PME also has a diverse range of curriculum subject specialisms that we support on the program. And as I said kind of previously, modules are delivered through a range of mediums. So lectures, small group seminars, workshops, and a strong emphasis on reflective tutorials and allow students to think into the teacher they'd like to become, and also a range of diverse and authentic assessment methods and so on. And critically, you get really strong hands-on experience in terms of your journey to becoming a teacher and benefit from the PME strong teaching and research focus. So just in terms of very briefly the program overview, you can see there on screen, placement is full-time, so that runs from Monday to Friday throughout the school year. In terms of the lectures and tutorials and seminars, they happen on Tuesday and Wednesday evenings during the semester from 4 to 8 p.m. and on the St. Patrick's campus at DCU. On screen, what you're seeing is a kind of a visual representation of the program. And you can see there, so that has foundation studies that also is on the PME primary, and modules that look at schooling and society and philosophy of education and psychology of teaching and learning and the history of education. We also have a range of modules that are very much focused on professional studies and the practice of teaching, including how to be a teacher for all students, looking at educational relationships and learning, fostering creativity and innovation, teaching in online spaces, and so on. And then we also have our subject specialisms, which relate to the curricular subjects that students have met the Teaching Council requirements or in the process of meeting them, and critically support students to teach in a very inclusive, in an innovative, creative, engaging manner. And finally, professional placements at the top of the screen. In a sense, it forms a central pillar of both years of the program, and I'll chat into that in the next slide. So there's a lot of detail here, but I won't dwell on it just with time constraints. But I suppose just to emphasize what are the critical components of our school-based professional placement. Well, it's year-long, it's full-time, and in both years, year 1 and year 2, students source and experience placement in a different school each year. So what are the critical kind of pieces of placement? Well, initially, there's a 3-week initial observation period that happens at the start of the school year, and that's to allow students to settle in, to learn and observe experienced teachers, and to document that learning. And you'll hear the word reflection being mentioned multiple times throughout this piece, and that's at the heart of it. In terms of then direct teaching, obviously we want and support students to become teachers and to teach their curricular subjects, and they're required to teach a minimum of 4 hours per week over the school year. And you can decide, if people have multiple subjects, you can teach one or both of those subjects in a given year where appropriate. And then we also have this idea of placement-related activities, which are really activities that are outside of that direct teaching component, but really allow student teachers to really experience what it is to be a teacher in a variety of ways. So including team teaching, working with other experienced colleagues, really supporting the life of the school through extracurricular activities, engaging with planning with experienced colleagues at a department level, working with parents, a whole range of options, and critically support students in a variety of manners. So that's kind of the critical pieces of placement. So just kind of to dwell just for a moment, and already covered earlier in the presentation, which is great, around kind of the requirements around the PME program. So in terms of application for it, you're required to fill out the relevant subject declaration forms during the application process, and completing a subject declaration form allows applicants to match the credits in the degree subjects against the Teaching Council requirements for that particular curricular subject. As already stated, applicants must meet the requirements for at least one post-primary curricular subject. And then there's an assessment process by the Teaching Council, which will confirm eligibility at the end of the program to register a teacher, and may also inform you about some credits that you may have to make up to meet the requirements and so on. So that's a critical kind of thing to be thinking into, I think, if you're thinking about the application process. And then kind of moving into the kind of the ending, the application process. Applicants apply through the DCU student application portal. There's a course code DC905. And just to state, all of this is on the DCU PME program pages. So you'll be able to access all of this information. And on screen are just some of the key dates. So our applications are open already, and they'll remain open until the 9th of February. So that's important for you to note. And there's also a deadline there around final year certified transcripts, which I'll talk into in the next slide. So just to note those important dates, I think would be really important. So in terms of the application process, because I know there's a practicality around it. So on screen at the moment are the list of different components that are required as part of the application process, including a questionnaire that you fill in, the subject declaration forms, a school placement form, because students have to source a placement for their first year of the program, references if you're claiming work experience for points purposes, and I'll talk about the points in a moment, and uploading of academic transcripts and so on. So just so you get a sense of what's required. And again, all of this detail is on the website. So in terms of applications then are assessed using a point system. And you can see on screen some of the critical kind of pieces that are part of that scoring system, including points for academic performance in your eligible primary degree equivalent, points for additional academic qualifications, if you have any, or points for relevant professional experience. And again, all the information is on the website. Probably critical piece is the point in blue there, that those who are in the final year, which obviously is really pertinent to people here in this presentation of your degree, and you've not yet completed your degree at the time of applying, those applicants are evaluated on the examination results of the most recently completed academic year. So it's just to alert you to that. And then finally, just some contact details on screen. But again, just direct you to all of this information is readily available on the website. And yeah, so it's been a pleasure just to give you a very general sense of the PME program. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Gareth, for such a clear overview and to signpost all those resources on the DCU website. That's great. Thank you so much. So we'll just move swiftly on to Michaela now, who will be presenting in terms of Hibernia, both their PME primary and post-primary. So welcome, Michaela.
Hold on one sec. You can see that, yes?
Yes, you can.
Get it. Let me just share it slightly differently. 1 second. Yeah, well then just in the meantime, as I'm seeing enrollment advisor over here at Hibernia College. So if you've maybe had a look at our courses before or are looking to apply in the future, you'll probably be talking to one of my team or myself, actually, probably, if you're looking to apply. Can you see that there?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to run you through just a little quick overview of our primary and our post-primary, as we offer both. So we do things a little bit differently over here at Hibernia College. We run a 2-intake PME and a blended format. So I can run you through exactly what that would look like in just a minute, but just a few bits of the standards, which is the 2-year program. So like the others, it's 24 consecutive months. We run it straight through for the 24 consecutive months rather than dividing into a traditional academic year. We have calendars that are indicative that we can send out to those that are maybe having a look at what that might look like for the next 2 years. So that's always something that people get in touch with us to have a look at. Again, it's the 120 level 9 professional masters in education, and we run a spring and an autumn intake. So rather than just the September intake, we also have one that generally starts in April that is currently open for applications right now. Just a little bit on our blended learning. So what does that exactly look like? We blend our program into some face-to-face learning and also online learning. So I think the split at the moment that we have is about 45% online, about 55% in person. That looks a little bit different depending if it's primary or post-primary, and we also split regionally and non-regionally for that too. So we're in our 25th year of doing this, so we've kind of got it down to a T at this point of the blended learning format. It's a little bit more of a flexible format for certain people, and maybe even might be a little more familiar for certain even when you did college in COVID years. So just a little on our online elements. So this comes in a few different little formats. So you'll have online lectures that will be on demand. So material usually gets released at the start of a week or on the Friday before the start of the week. You'll have a look over the materials that you'd need to prep before going into those tutor moderated discussion forums. So you'll drop into forums with some of our tutors who are from a range of backgrounds. A lot of them are retired or not retired, but many years teaching, principals, ex-principals, that sort of thing, career breaks. So they have a wealth of knowledge in those sort of areas. So you'll drop into those tutor moderated sessions, have a discussion about the materials you've been reading that week, maybe go over some points of challenges you've had or anything you want to discuss further. Other than that, you'll have online webinars and tutorials. These are about 3 hours per week. They do occur in the evening. So when we run these, it's usually during the week between the hours of 5 and 9 p.m. Now, not necessarily every week, but or every day, but you'll have about 3 hours per week in that. Other than that, we have a really extensive online library, and our librarian is amazing. And we have a great online forum as well that you kind of dip in, get all your materials, and get access to all your classes in. Now on the face-to-face, because we do have some face-to-face elements, we have workshops that they run on Saturdays. Now it depends on the stage of the course that you're at. It would be probably beneficial to have a look at where our modules lie. If you want to have a look at one of those indicative calendars that we can send out to you, they're usually on a Saturday. They usually last the whole day. And it also depends if you're primary or post-primary. Primary, because there's so many of you, we can sort you guys regionally. So we normally try to group maybe 25, 30 students into a cohort regional base. So wherever the closest cohort that we can get to you, we'll put you into that one. So it might mean that you may not have to leave your county, or just maybe go one county over for your Saturdays in person. And there may be consecutive Saturdays. It really depends. The front end of our course, like a lot of the other PMEs, would be a little heavier on those modules because they're getting you ready for our placement blocks, which we'll get into in just a minute. So for this, it would be flexibility would be essential because you would have to show up to those face-to-face days. For post-primary, at the moment, we kind of do base you guys in and around Dublin. As we get more and more subjects classes going, we can sort of sort you guys a little more regionally as we go. But generally speaking, in and around Dublin is where we kind of base the post-primary at the moment. Now, like the rest, school placement, we have 24 weeks in total. We separate you guys into 3 blocks, so 2 blocks of 7 weeks, and then a final 10-week block. And we maybe do it a little different scheduling than the others as well. This is just for our post-primary. This does not have to do anything with primary. These are the current subjects we offer. So we've good few post-primary subjects. We've added a few extra recently. So we've added PE, politics and society, and also computer science in the last few years. PE would be one of our newer ones. We just added last intake. So these are the ones that are currently on offer if you're having a look. Again, SDF's subject declaration forms are something that you can definitely have a look at on the Teaching Council website as well in regards to these. Those are the new ones. Yeah, just a little more on placement. So it is 24 weeks in total. We break them into little blocks. We do put you guys into the schools for the full day, for the full school weeks while you're out on them. However, you guys get to source your placement schools. So if you have one in your locality that you'd like to go to, maybe you want to go back to the one you went to yourself. We do at least 2 different schools. So you'll need to go to 2 different over the 3 blocks. You can maybe go back to the same one for the 3rd if you'd like to as well, or you can go on to a completely new 3rd one, and that's always great as well. But we do this so you guys can kind of have a look in your locality first. When I say this subject specific ones, so the post-primary, definitely have a look in your local area before you maybe have a look at PME just for your subjects combinations. Sometimes there might be a school close to you that doesn't offer the subject, say computer science is a slightly more new one, or politics society doesn't have every school. So yeah, you'll be in the school full day, Monday to Friday while on placement. While you may not be teaching all of those hours, we do really encourage people to stay around, get involved in any sort of training, after school, field trip. They're always great. Yard duty is great as well. And we say to almost treat it like almost like a little mini job interview. Yeah, so as we are blended learning, we do the the full-time course as well as commitment. So it's 37 hours a week. Now that's split in between your actual showing up to class, doing your assignments, doing your prep reading, and then the Saturdays in person. It amounts to around 37 hours, but it really is how you kind of manage your time yourself. That's what we put aside. It is a full-time commitment. It is a level 9 master's. Even though we do blended learning, we do like to highlight that to our applicants. Just a little on entry requirements that we've run through with a few of the other colleges as well. Again, the post-primary is that level 8, subject specific as well. If you want to have a look at the Teaching Council website, subject declaration forms, that is the best place to start. Gather up your transcripts from your colleges. You might not have them. It's not the parchment paper that you got on the day of graduation. It's the specific breakdown of the modules you would have studied in school. And if you have a look there for your entry requirements, and also our website has a good bit of advice then too. And for the primary, just the same Department of Education requirements there for the Irish, the H4. and then the 180 level 8 and your English and your maths. So we do have additional requirements or alternative requirements that you can have a look at that were mentioned before earlier on in this presentation. So you can have a look on our website of the ones that we currently have for the primary as well. So if you maybe didn't get the H4 the first time around in the Irish, you could always go back and sit it, or you could go sit a TEG B2. That's teg.ie directly. You can find all the information there. The other ones have our individual ones up on our website. There. A little bit on our applying process. So we're now currently open for spring 2026. That usually closes February each year. So it's February 5th this year that we're closing, and that usually starts the start of April. Again, we'll look to open our autumn as we have 2 intakes kind of in the new year probably. That usually closes in around June and usually starts kind of the start of September. So that traditional school year calendar is that one, and we have our spring one as well. So if maybe spring you don't get everything sorted in time, that's fine. We have the autumn after that. What's great is we do it all online. So you submit your application online with all of your documents, your personal statement, pay the application fee. Enrollment, my team will have a look at it first. If we need anything additional off you, we'll usually get back in touch pretty quickly. And then if we think everything looks all right, we'll get it over to admissions. They'll have a final review, and then they will get on to scheduling you for interviews. Now, if you want to know more about our interviews, I probably don't have enough time here. We run a lot of webinars on our website, on our events page. Primary webinars, post-primary webinars, they give the ins and outs of all of the course bits and applying and interviewing and things like that. We have our School of Education usually on it with us too, so they can get you really into the modules and things like that. And then also we have Irish prep webinars because we run our own Irish interviews. We don't require the TEG B1 like other colleges might, but we do schedule our own Irish portion of the interview. So that's generally how we run things. The sooner you submit your application, the sooner we have a look at it on my team, and admissions have a look at it and have you scheduled for an interview. That should be everything. If you have any other questions for us anyways, we are usually at the other end of that line Monday to Friday. I think that's me covered pretty much in a stop tour.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michaela. We're flying it today in terms of sticking to times. I know we're very tight timelines here. So thanks for that overview. And then finally, last but not least, we have Andrea from Marino. Thanks so much again, Andrea, for joining us this year. And Andrea is going to bring us through further education pathways.
Perfect. That's great. I'm just having a hard time getting this to share. Let's see. Here we go. Can you see those slides?
We can see your screen, just not the slides yet.
Yeah.
You had sent them to me, so let me see if
I did. Let's see
if I can bring them up here.
I don't know if you've seen them there. Otherwise, yeah, if you've got them, that'd be great.
Oh, I think it's opening now, actually, is it? Or is that mine? Have a look.
On my side.
Yeah, I'm
Perfect.
sharing.
That's great.
Okay. Can you see that okay?
I sure can. Thank you. And I'll just tell you when to advance.
When to move on. Yeah, no problem.
Perfect. So yeah, thank you everyone for coming to today's presentation. My name is Andrea E. Keenan, and I am one of the lecturers here at Marino Institute. While the purpose of my talk today is to actually look at the roots in teaching towards adult education, I did want to just give a brief mention that we also have 2 PMEs actually at Marino Institute for primary school teaching, for those of you that might be interested. So we have the traditional English medium PME, which is also a 2-year program, very similar to what you've heard about today. But we do also offer what's called the B-Edge, and that is a PME completely through the medium of Irish, in case anybody is interested in that. So yeah, just take a look at our website if you'd like to learn more about our PME programs. However, the program that I want to talk to you about today is our professional diploma in education for further education teaching. So this is our ITE program for those of you that are interested in working in areas like adult, community, further education. So we'll take a look at our course overview today, and then I'll just take you through kind of how the course runs, as well as some bits and pieces on things like tuition. All right. So the professional diploma in education, like I said, it is preparing you ultimately to work in the further education sector. And this particular program is based on a blended model. So we'll take a look at that in just a moment. It is situated at a level 8 on the National Framework of Qualifications. All right, we can continue going on through that one if you want to move ahead. As I mentioned to you before, yeah, if you're interested in teaching in either secondary or in primary, this would not be the degree program for you. Again, you would be wanting to look at something like a PME. However, if you are interested in adult ed, in terms of our admissions criteria, in order to get into this program, you either need a level 7 degree that's worth 180 ECTSs. And if that is the degree level that you have, you also need 3 years of relevant experience, having worked in a field that's directly related to your degree area. If you have a level 8 degree, you can come straight into the PDEFE just based on that level 8 degree. You don't need any particular level of experience. And in addition to those admissions criteria, the only other thing that you really need to do besides filling out the online application is to also successfully pass an online interview where we basically ask you about your motivations for wanting to work in the further ed sector, just to make sure that this program is exactly in alignment with your career goals. Okay. So with our PDEFE, we actually have 2 different options that you can choose from. We do have a full-time intensive 1-year program. This is going to be suitable for 2 people or 2 types of people, either people who are already teaching in the further ed sector or in adult education, and they can use their hours that they're getting paid for, their teaching hours, to satisfy the placement requirements. Or if you are able to take the year off essentially, and you don't need to work outside of going to school, and you can just focus on your studies and on doing your placement, then this program could work for you as well. If that doesn't apply to you, then I would strongly recommend thinking about our part-time 2-year program. That's much more suitable for people who want to be able to work while also going to school and studying. And so that'll help those sorts of applicants. All right. So in terms of our course structure, we essentially have 2 components. We have our academic component, which consists of all the different modules that you take to teach you about teaching. And then we have our educational placement component to actually get you out and working in schools. So in terms of the academic modules, basically all of our modules on this program are about teaching and learning, all right, or education in general. If you note, we take you through everything from educational psychology to how to teach, or basically methodologies, to things like contemporary issues in further education. What you don't see on this list are subject specialisms, and that is because, first of all, further ed has a lot of different subjects that are taught within it, but we also see you as being the subject expert by virtue of your undergraduate degree. So that's why we don't actually do subject specialisms on this course. All right, we can continue on. Now, in terms of how will you learn, particularly in the modules that you've just seen there, we do face-to-face live online instruction on Zoom. Those courses normally take place like on a Monday evening from 6 to 8:30 p.m. We sometimes put up asynchronous or independent units of online learning. Those might be like a recorded lecture, for example, that you would take part in. And then we also have face-to-face classes as well. Those take place on Saturday here on the campus of Marino Institute. And again, those typically go from about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning until about 4. So that's how you access your taught modules. And then in addition, we have the educational placement, or what you might call your teaching practice, your teaching hours. We can continue on. So yeah, we've actually already gone over this one, so we can skip that slide. So in terms of the general workload, like I said, most of the modules that you will take are 5 ECTS credit modules, and then there are a couple of 10 ECTS modules. So we do try to emphasize to people, if you want, fully face-to-face type provision, if you're not good at studying on your own and kind of blocking out your own time for independent study, then this probably isn't the course for you, because as you can see, there are a lot of hours of directed and independent self-study that you do need to take part in. So just kind of blend that, or keep that in mind. It is a blended learning program, so we do expect that students will be, studying independently in their own time in order to really be successful. Now, one of the questions that we often get is, how are we assessed in, especially in your academic components and the academic modules? We don't have any formal, let's say, written exams, things that where you might have to memorize a bunch of information and, write an exam for 3 hours. Rather, we use what's called continual assessment in all of the academic modules. And so basically that's going to consist of a wide variety of items, everything from written essays to project work, group work, and so on. So you're just constantly being assessed at the end of each module. You know exactly what that assessment is and can be working on it and towards it throughout your whole time on the program. So like I said to you, the other element besides the classes that you take will be your educational placement or your teaching practice. So I'll tell you a little bit about that now. You can continue on. As you'll see, basically, no matter whether you're on the full-time or the part-time program, the Teaching Council requires that you complete 30 hours of observation and 100 hours of teaching practice, and that you have a total of 4 assessed visits where an assessor actually comes out to look at your teaching practice and give you a bit of friendly advice. So whether or not you're on that the full-time or the part-time program, the hours requirements are the same. It's just in the part-time program, we divide those over 2 years, so you can see there's a lot less pressure in terms of completing your teaching practice than there is on the full-time. Just a few reminders about our placement. Number one, students are responsible for sourcing their own educational placement in an adult education setting. So essentially the main requirements is that wherever you go for placement, you're working in a state-approved provider of further and adult education, and that the programs that you're teaching on are at either QQ level 3 through 6. That's the 2 main requirements. Beyond that, our students tend to complete their observation hours at the start of the year, so between September and October. And then depending on what program they're on, they continue to teach through from about November till March, kind of April-ish, when teaching kind of wraps up within further ed. So you are essentially teaching during the weekdays, getting your teaching practice in, using what we've taught you in the academic modules, and then going to class in the evenings. And like I said, kind of every other weekend on Saturdays. All right. Again, in terms of employment opportunities, just to emphasize what this particular program is for, it's really preparing you to work in further and adult education settings. So our graduates work in a wide variety of places. That could be everything from youth reach to colleges of further education. I know up in Dundalk, you have OFE College of Further Ed, so we have a lot of students there. Other students choose to work on PLC courses or post-leaving certificate programs, even apprenticeships, different training programs, community education. There's really a long list of opportunities. And we are also offering a level 9 master's in further education for people who are interested in doing research in the field of adult ed or even going into leadership. So there are lots of options within this sector that you may not have thought of. All right. We can continue on. Yeah, and just lastly, the last thing that I just wanted to mention was about our fees, just to give you an idea of the cost of the program. So the program cost a total of €5,950, and in addition, then students pay €103 levy. That's for the full-time program. And then as you see, those fees are just split between the part-time or for the part-time program between years 1 and year 2. We also have a number of like installment programs. And if you are on the full-time program, you can avail if you qualify for assistance, like through Susie, for example. So that's important to bear in mind, but not if you're on the part-time program. And just in terms of applying, our applications typically open in the early spring. And so you just submit them directly through our website. And if you're interested in just knowing about when the program opens, you can just email our admissions department or Helen Johnson. Her email's there, and you will receive a copy of these slides. And if you let her know that you're interested in the PDFE and to contact you when the applications open, she will add you to our list. The only other thing to say from here really is that if you take a look at this particular presentation when it arrives to you, you will see that here at the end of it, I have a number of frequently asked questions that you might be wondering about the program, helpful tips as well for kind of what to do, as well as who to contact if you do need more information. So yeah, take a look at that. And yeah, we'd love to see you on the program in September. Thanks so much.
That's super. Thank you so much, Andrea. Thanks a million for that.
Thank you.
And thank you all to everybody who's presented today. It really is such a key, valuable resource and session for our students here at DkIT. And no doubt you'll be receiving lots of applications from them, hopefully January, February of next year, even though I know a lot of applications are currently open. So just we have 2 minutes left. If I could just open the floor to any questions that students may have, you can just jump in or raise your hand alternatively. Anthony? Anthony's our head of careers here at
Hi,
DkIT.
everybody. Looking just to echo Claire's thanks to Aisling, Tara, Gareth, Michaela, and Andrea. It was absolutely brilliant. You've sort of demystified teaching for us all, I think, which is always really beneficial. The students always have multiple questions around this sort of area, and it's quite nuanced, so it's great to get that sort of clarity on it. So we really appreciate it. One question I have, maybe it's for Tara, Gareth, and Michaela and Andrea around placements. So students are often sort of frantically searching for placements, and they come to us maybe when they've graduated, sort of seeking help around securing placements in schools. Do you guys support them in that, or is it very much up to them to secure their placements?
Yeah, I can jump in from the Merino perspective, at least on our
Right.
program. So we do have a dedicated person who works expressly in placement. So we always tell students, look, we want you to choose your own placement because this is really part of your career trajectory. Like if you don't want to be in a youth reach, you don't want us placing you there when that's not actually what you want to do. So that's really important to kind of think about. However, absolutely, if students are stuck or they're just not getting hours, no matter what they've done to try and reach out and kind of, attract a placement, yeah, our support people will definitely get in there and help you to kind of source that. So we definitely don't leave anyone to flounder, and we've never had a student not complete the program simply because they couldn't find hours. So there is support there for you.
Yeah, we would have a similar process as well. We encourage everyone, because they're based all over the country, to go into their locality first. What we suggest is always an in-person drop-in if you can. Info emails are one thing, but always an in-person face is always great. Other than that, if you're really struggling, we do have an amazing placement team who have a lot of contacts in lots of schools across the country, and a lot of our lecturers would as well. So,
Right.
Yeah, just in relation to DCU, yeah, absolutely similar kind of processes. Obviously, students self-source, self-select, support. I think from the PME post-primary, one thing we are finding is that actually schools are coming to us looking for student applicants, because I think the fact that students are immersed in the school community for the full school year is a very kind of supportive. Schools find that a very good arrangement, and it supports the student teacher development, but also supports the school community. So yeah, but like that, we would be very supportive of people, and it generally isn't an inhibitor at all for people in terms of accessing the program.
Great. Thanks so much for those answers. And I forgot to mention Claire. Claire, thanks very much for organising this. As usual, absolutely brilliant.
No problem.
Thanks a million.
No problem at all. So just if there's no other questions, just conscious of a few students there. If there's no other questions there, we might wrap it up. Thank you again. Really appreciate your time. No doubt I'll see some of your faces again this time next year. It comes around very, very fast to do another similar session. And thanks to everyone who's forwarded your slides and to express that you're happy that I share them onwards with our student cohorts. All right, take care, everyone. Thank you again for your time. Appreciate it. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. All the best. Thank you.